Today, we're wrapping up this project. We're gonna be cutting rust, welding metal, grinding stuff, wiring things that need to be wired, lighting up things that are too dark, and even doing some work under the hood, all with the end goal to stick a fork in it because it's done. So stick around. Well, what's up guys, and welcome back to Project Time Garage. And yes, the goal of this video is to get this project done enough. Now I can already hear you out there in viewer land.
What? Done? Hey baby, you ought to hear what this boy on the YouTube just said. He said this old truck was done. That thing's rougher than gas station toilet paper. It's crazy. It ain't done.
Yeah, that's fair. But let me explain. Done, well, that's a relative term. It means different things to different people, and it means different things to different projects. This truck is a good example of that. As it sits right now, it's mechanically sound. It runs good, it drives good, it rides good, it's extremely reliable. Heck, I drive it anywhere. Even the interior, it's a nice place to be. Doesn't even smell funny or nothing. But it needs a lot in the way of fit and finish. Most of that is body work that would end up costing a fortune to have done. So that means I'm left with a choice. I can either find a body shop, most of which are booked out for a year or more for good shops, wait a year, get the thing in there. They're gonna have it for probably months and months anyway. And the end result of that is I'll end up with a truck 2 years from now that I have probably $30,000 or $40,000 in that I don't want to drive. I'm scared to get dirty. I'm scared to use it as a truck. Or I can have it like this, a decent old truck that presents okay, that's tons of fun to drive, gets a lot of looks, gets a lot of comments, and I don't have a fortune in it. And the best part is I'm enjoying it right now. That's the point, I feel like, of these old car projects. Sure, it's great to have a pristine, 100-point concours restoration. That's awesome. The fact of the matter is, most of us, A, don't have time, and B, don't have the money to put in these vehicles to make them, $100,000 show cars. And they're just not as much fun, I feel like. So, I'm having a ball enjoying this truck. I've been driving it even with it being ugly. Don't care. Awesome fun. So, we're gonna wrap up the last few little details on this truck that I feel like I need to get worked out before, we call it finished. We're gonna start with those ugly rust holes on the rear bed quarters, the bottom bed quarters back there behind the wheels. I got some replacement panels from LMC. We're gonna cut that out, make it pretty, and then we'll go on down the checklist. So, see you in the garage. I think I'm gonna go ahead and set the new bumper we put on the last episode, and then we're gonna set this off so we can get back there and make our cuts, because it's significantly rusty back here behind too. And then we'll have a look at our patch panels and see what we want to use from them. Remember, we put this on in the last episode, and since it has all brand new hardware, it's 19 millimeter, should be very simple to do. That'll give us access to get back here and see what we need to work on. Okay, I think it should just come down. There it comes. There we go. Now, that gives us access to do the work we need to do. I guess I need to start by taking some of this trim off. Because I don't want it to get messed up. I feel like I should pull this wheel well molding trim off as well. Pulled out this tail light too. I don't think it's going to matter, but some of this damage looks like it goes quite a ways up. I'm going to have problems in this area, I can almost guarantee it. But I only want to cut out what I have to cut out. I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want to get up into this and all these, you know, all this body stuff. I don't want to fool with that. And you know, on the back side, it feels, most of this feels fine. So I think I'm just going to cut what I am sure that I need. We'll let Bondo do the rest. I think I'm going to come up to maybe right in here somewhere, and we'll just start there. And as far as how much to actually cut out, I'm thinking something like this right here. I know I'm cutting out a lot of decent metal here, but I think I would rather deal with nice straight lines than to get into some odd angles. I'm thinking it's going to look something like that. So, let's cut it. Well, that's got us, for the most part, cut out. Next thing I have to worry about is I need to make a cut under here just to kind of finish it out. But this panel is tack welded to a brace, like it's, well, spot welded, like 1,152 times. So I'm going to put the truck up in the air a little bit so I can look underneath it and kind of see those spot welds a little bit better. Maybe try to drill them out. You can see the spot welds I'm talking about there, 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 and there. And I actually think there are a few spot welds up here too. We can see some kind of dents here. Pretty sure those are spot welds, although I'm not absolutely positive about it. But we'll find out as we go along. I did some grinding here, and you can see all these spots that are spot welds. I think this is one too, but I'm not positive of it. But anyway, basically just take a flat disc and just grind it down, and anywhere you see paint left over, probably end up going to be a spot weld. So let's drill those out of there. There were 3 spot welds right in a row. They went a spot weld on the top, spot weld on the bottom, and then stuck another one in the middle. Built Ford tough. These are the panels I got. Got them from LMC Truck. Guess you guys can hear the rain outside. It is a bona fide frog strangler out there today. All right. I've just got my old patch in here pretty much as well as I can get it. I'm just going to do a rough mark around it. It does bother me a little bit that this patch isn't as long as this one. I don't know why they decided to not take it all the way out so you could fold it over, but they didn't. And that's basically what my patch is going to look like. I'm going to cut it on this line that I've made because I feel like that's the right place. I actually feel like it's a little bit too big because by the time you lay this patch in there, it's actually laying on top of this one, so the whole thing is up some. That should be a pretty good mark line right there, I would assume. I've got the piece cut pretty close. Obviously, you know, I don't have a steady hand as much as I guess somebody that does this every day. But who am I kidding? Hell, I can't cut a straight line with a pair of scissors. That's beside the point. I've got it put together well enough where I've got a few places here that line up perfectly flush. I'm gonna try to just stick a tack weld on those places, see how that works. Hopefully I can just get it to stick there well enough. We'll see. Well, first tack weld out of the way. All right, that's two. I'm not sure which direction I should go, if I should go like this or like this, but I think I'm going to go downhill first. I think that makes more sense. One of the things I'm running into here is the curve in this panel is not exactly the same as this panel. So fitment is a whole thing. Tell you one thing I'm doing a good job blowing holes in some of it. If I get my wire too close, I guess there's more heat. I don't know, I'm not a seamstress. I couldn't tell you what the problem is, but let's got our basic tack job done. I want to run around this thing and fill it all in, and we'll see about grinding it smooth when we're done. All right, so our panel's pretty well at least put in there. It's rough as can be, but we're gonna do some body filler to do this. I've also got some pinholes and stuff that I cannot weld out. Evidently, there are just some places in this old panel where it's just thin and the quality is just bad. Also, I noticed back here, neither one of these replacement panels they're not as long. The original panel came all the way around here and was crimped over this little thing here. But these, they stopped just barely short of it. So I did what I had to do. Some things ensued. Long story short though, we've got both of them at least on there. And, you know, it's going to take some body filler to make that look right, but hopefully it will look right. I think I can just body fill basically just where I welded, and that'll be it. I did throw some primer on here. You see this is gray and not black because it sat outside and it rained some, so I wanted to make sure that it was covered up and it didn't rust. So, next thing, Bondo. This is another thing I suck at, so wish me luck. Couldn't have done that any messier, could I? Wow. Well, I really piled the Bondo on this thing. I'm sorry. body filler on this thing. But, you know, the more you put on, the more you have to put on. I don't know, made that up. So we'll see how this turns out. This side here was a lot better than the other side. So, you know, right in here where you can see down the body line, the body has that kind of curve to it. This one here was way more pronounced right here. So maybe I can use some sandpaper and get that, you know, straightened back out. I guess we'll start off with some 80 grit pads. I have some 5-inch discs here, or pads. I've got a 6-inch DA. Not sure how that happened, but we're going to use them. I put too much Bondo on here. I don't mean that I put it too thick. I mean that I think I went too far up and too far down. I should have probably focused more where the actual issue was, but we'll see. I spent about 45 minutes or so and got it all sanded down pretty smooth. There's some areas like here and here that are a little bit high. And I've tried to kind of knock those down, but I don't want to be too crazy with it. So I'm going to come back with a little bit of spot putty. And in these areas that have problems, I'll spot putty it and knock it back down and just kind of see what it looks like from there, you know. Got some pinholes and stuff that have to be filled in too from the Bondo or from the body filler. And this stuff just does a really good job of that. It's got the putty on there, and of course, you know, you put this stuff on extremely thin, and it's only to cover like imperfections and pits. You know, like that pit right there that I didn't put any putty on. Well, that's what it should cover. Got this kind of cleaned up. You can see it's still a little bit tacky, but it's dry to the touch. The thicker parts take a little bit longer. Overall, though, it dries pretty fast. This is what this side looks like. I have no idea why I'm all the way over here, because my repair stops right here. So I guess I just got carried away sanding and bondoing, you know, because I enjoy it so much. So we'll give this, I don't know, probably 20 minutes or so. This should cure up, and I'll come back with some, probably going to do some 320 and just do it by hand and try to knock all this down. And I think after that, I'll throw some high build primer on it, and at least that'll give us an idea of where we're at. If it looks absolutely like a piece of watered up newspaper, then we can go do something else. But I think overall, it's probably going to be as good as the rest of the truck is. Keeping in mind, you can look down that bedside right there, and that door, and that fender up there, and see why I'm not taking, you know, an entire day or two just to do body work on this thing, because what's the point? Anyway, see you in about 20 minutes. All right, well, I stuck a coat of primer on here, and I came back with some 320 and knocked it down. I'm going to put at least one more coat, maybe 2 more coats of primer, hoping it'll fill in some of these really low spots, because you can feel a lot of like ripples. So I'll see if that helps out or not. We'll find out. For primer, I'm just using this U-Pole sandable. It's got a pretty decent build to it, and it's not that expensive. So Perfect for this truck. Wow. What in the world is going on here? That's not how that's supposed to be coming out of there. Look at that. Wow, that's crazy. Evidently my nozzle was kind of junk. But anyway, that just put some more build on there, didn't it? So we've got a bunch of coats done, quite a bit of sanding in between coats. This side probably won't turn out as good as the other side did, but it is what it is. I did a half-ass tape job up here, so I'll paint the majority of this little section right here, but the idea is not to paint the whole truck. Leave that as kind of a tack coat, a really rough coat. Come back in a minute, we'll put a little bit more gloss on it. Well, there's the after paint deal, and you can absolutely see right here in the reflection where that panel was replaced. In some places, like back here, you really can't tell, but you can tell a little bit right in there. On this side, it was actually, it came out a lot better on this side. Again, you can see a little bit of wrinkliness right there, and that's where that panel was stitched, and I didn't spend enough time filling it and you know, cleaning it up. But overall, we don't have big old gaping rust holes, so there's that. So I'll get the bumper put back on it and get the trim put back on it. This little project will be wrapped up. We'll move on to something else. Well, that's wrapped up. Let's turn to the next project that's going to be on our list. That's this. I know this doesn't look like much, but it's pretty important. See? Told you it was important. This is for the reverse lights. This goes up on top of the transmission, right up kind of where the shifter comes into the shift tower. And it's almost impossible to get to, I think. Plus, I've got a giant piece of foam wedged up in there, which makes it even worse. So let's have a look at this. I have no idea where the wiring is for any of this, but we're at least going to have a look and see if we can figure it out. Maybe it'll be easy. Well, I'm fairly certain you can't see this, but you see a piece of foam sticking through the floor. Well, that piece of foam is hiding our prize. But the thing is, I don't see any wiring for it either, and there should be something. I just don't know where it comes from and where it goes to. So we've got to figure that out. The back of that intake manifold looks dry though, doesn't it? Honestly, same with that side too. That's good. I have a major leak off the back of the engine. I hope that's really not the rear main, and that's really what it looks like. I'm hoping that's just leftover oil from where we had that big gusher. Also have a pretty good leak right here on the transfer case, and it looks like it is where the transfer case mounts to the back of the transmission. Well, let's consult some wiring diagrams for this truck, see if we can figure out what color the wires are, where they come from, where they go to, what feeds them, how do they work, what do they smell like. I don't really care what they smell like, just want to see if they work. So here's the OEM diagram for this thing, course, this came from fortification.com. Left hand and right hand backup lamps are here and here. Looks like there's a black and red wire that go up through connector 1002. Yeah, 1002. And then they continue up through 1001 through a backup lamp switch. This is for a 3-speed trans. This is not us. This is for the 4-speed trans. Okay, so the black and red, you have choices here evidently. This is for the connector that if it had a 3-speed, if it had an automatic, and if it had a 4-speed. In our case, we have a 4-speed. So it goes up also through connector 1017 and into connector C1016, which is the backup lamp switch. I know where that is. It continues on through connector C1016. I'm betting that this is C1016, probably. I'm just guessing since they're both right there on the switch. Goes through a black and red, continues as black and red anyway. Goes to connector 1017, comes out and continues as a black and red. All the way down and around. Let's see, we have another option here. This would be for an automatic. We don't have that, so I guess this is probably for the manual transmission. So C1015, C1015, that's all the same connector there. Turns into a white with black and a black with red. So we see both of these are tied together, circuit 950 and 140. So let's see where these go and where they're fed from. White with black and black with red, so it goes off the page. It goes back one. Should come back up here. White with black and black with red, so there they are, the two right there. They go all the way across the top. Keep on going. Wow. All right, so the black with red is a 14 amp infuse panel. So that's where that comes from. So I guess we really need to get under the hood, because that 14 amp fuse, I know the one it's talking about, that's there's only like 3 fuses in this whole truck. The fuse panel is like this big and has like 3 or 4 fuses in it. And the one that seems to do all the heavy lifting is that 14 amp fuse that it's talking about. So I would guess that it comes out of that 14 amp fuse and goes to a connector somewhere. Before we get under the hood, let's see what the first connector is this thing hits, and then we'll see where it's at. So 140 black with red. The very first connector is on this second page. 140 black with red. The first connector it hits is C1015. So where is C1015? C1016, C1015. Start interlock and backup lamp switch. I don't have either of those. I don't think I have either of those in this truck. Where does it go next? Looks like it goes to C1017. So where is that? C1016, C1017. There. An engine compartment, left-hand fender apron, rear. It's a 2-pin connector. All right, let's go look at that and see what that looks like. Okay. What do we have here for unused wiring? There's 2 on that one. They go down that way. Okay, how about none of this lines up? But look, these are two black with reds, or a black and black with red. I wonder if either one of these is hot currently. Well, I have the key on. I just want to find somewhere that has a good ground, like maybe there. And this is the only plug that looks kind of like this in the whole truck, but it has nothing on it. Yeah, this is the only black and red wire that I see that has a 2-pin connector on it that looks like it might even possibly be it, but it doesn't have any power on it. And since it's supposed to be fed straight from that fuse under the dash, then this is obviously not it. Here's what we're going to do. I have this hooked straight to battery positive. And I've got this connector here that has 2 wires on it that was jumpered inexplicably. One of these is black with a red stripe. So my plan is to feed it some power and see if anything happens. Okay, nothing really happening there, but let's hook it up. Let's go see. My theory here is that if I hit a circuit that actually goes to the reverse lights, they'll come on, and then I'll know that I'm closer. Nothing. Well, we had 2 wires there, 50-50 shot. So let's try the other one. Unplug from that one and we'll go into this one. All right. I'm getting a tiny spark from that. That indicates a draw. A draw is good, a small draw. We don't want a huge draw, but a small draw indicates that something's pulling some kind of a load. I'll be damned, look at that. Reverse lights. So what that means is that if I can plug this into the transmission, all the transmission switch does is just close the set of contacts when it goes in reverse. I can put 12 volts from that 14 fuse into one side. I can bring the other side right back up there and plug it into that, and that should give me reverse lights. I mean, unless I'm missing something basic, that's what we intend to do. I think my best bet at this point is just to run 2 wires, a black and a red, from this point right here right down to where my switch hooks up, and I'll basically just send 12 volts straight down to the switch when the key is on, and then the switch can, when it's connected, it'll just connect right back to this wire and turn on my reverse lights. See, the cab that's on this truck is not the cab that's original to the truck. The cab here came off of a, I think it was a 76, and it was an automatic. And of course I swapped in the column and all that, but it's been a long time ago and I don't really remember what I did with the wiring. But I think this is the 76 wiring harness. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much. There's just not a whole hell of a lot in terms of electrical circuits on the truck. There's like 4. So I think that's our best bet. That's what we're gonna do. Just gonna pull about that much wire and just drop it down as close as I can get it to the original wiring harness. And I'll go back here in just a minute. I'll get it as close as I can to the original wiring harness, and then we'll just pick it up, and then we can get it taped up and looking right once we get down there. So that's it connected. I'm not wild about the fact that there's nowhere to really affix this wire to the bottom of the truck, and I don't really want to drill a hole to put one of those Christmas tree zip ties, but I did secure it up there, and I ran it up beside the factory wiring. Also covered it up in some of this cloth tape. I left an Amazon link to this in the last video. I'll do it again in this video down below. This is pretty good stuff for what we're doing. And I won't even tell you what a pain in the ass that was, getting that thing plugged in. That was rough, but either way, it's in there. So we can go up top and hook it up. All right, it's been a few days and I am back. I've got the wire ran all the way down and I went ahead and put a couple of spade ends on it here. And it's nice and taped up. I've got heat shrink, the gooey heat shrink, you know, that kind of melts and puts adhesive and all that awesome stuff in there. But one thing I probably should have done at the very beginning, I don't know that the switch on the transmission is any good. I have no clue. I really should have just taken a multimeter and just checked continuity between these when it's in reverse to make sure, because that's essentially all it does. When you put it in reverse, it just closes a switch. So let's say I'm sending 12 volts down this side. When I put it in reverse, it closes a switch and sends 12 volts back on that same 12 volts back on the other wire, or the red wire in this case. So I didn't check that. So I've got a choice. I can either get my multimeter out and I can check it, or I can just hook the stupid thing up and see if it works. That might be faster. I did some looking around here, and on this connector here that is for the DuraSpark ignition, I've got 2 green wires here that have 12 volts on them. So I'm just going to stick one side in there, and then we'll come back with the other side and we'll connect it where it's supposed to go, which is on this plug going out to the tail lights. Let's see if it works or not. Key on in neutral. I should have no lights back there. Good. No lights. Key on in reverse. No lights. Did I hook up the wrong wire? Do I have to redo that test all over again? Thought I had it right. Let's try that side. Hey, there we go. I just had the wrong side. All right, so that is key on in reverse. So if we come out of reverse, look at that. No lights. To me, that sounds like reverse lights. All right, here's the next thing that I want to check. I want to see how much draw those tail lights have, or those reverse lights have when it's in reverse. And the reason I want to know that is because I want to hang a set of auxiliary, like, you know, the little square LED lights like I've got on everything else, that go kind of under the bumper and provide a little bit of extra light when you back up. These bulbs here are incandescents. I believe they're like 1107s or something like that. They're just not very bright, so they don't do very well. But if I'm going to do that, I don't want to run a whole new wire back there, because typically those little LED puck lights, they don't draw any amperage or very much amperage at all. That being said, this has a single fuse that feeds a whole lot of different circuits on this truck, so I want to see what I'm dealing with as far as that goes. So I'm going to measure, and I'm going to show you guys how I measure the amperage that something is drawing. But in order to do that, I need to make sure that my battery is hot. And if you remember the last video, I had to jump myself off because I left the key on too long and killed the battery. So the first thing we're going to do is test the battery. We're on volts DC right there. I'm sure you can see that. I'm just going to go, so we'll go here and here. Looks like 12.28. So the battery's not fully warm, fully hot. So I think I'm going to stick a battery charger on there and just get the battery, you know, to have the right voltage real quick, and then we'll do our quick test because amperage changes based on voltage. Okay, my battery is on the charger and it's set to 12 volt medium, which should be plenty. .08, 9, 10, 11, it's growing because the battery's charging. But this will be a good place to do a quick test. So what I'm going to do to get ready for my test is make sure the key is on, and it is, because we left it on. I'm going to put it in reverse. You can see in the reflection back there, that turns the reverse lights on, and you can see they're not very bright too. Kind of like me. On the meter, I'm going to change all the way over here to DC amperage. And I'm going to change this red lead from voltage and ohms and diode. I'm going to change it over to the amp scale. And this is a pretty simple test to do. I'm basically just going to unplug the lead that goes out to my lights. This one, I'm going to stick one side of my test lead into that connection. And the other side of my test lead, I'm going to hook to 12 volts. Why ain't getting nothing? Once again, I have popped this in the wrong spot. So I'll put this is the wire that runs out to the tail lights. And this is my 12 volts. Really? Why am I not measuring anything? So unfortunately, my meter is no longer working on amps. It's completely dead as far as amps go. I should at least get a light, but I don't. Not at all. That is crazy. Well, evidently I blew the fuse in that meter. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. And we're going to try this again. All right. So you can see what I'm drawing here. 2.7 amps with those lights on. So that's not a whole lot, but I think we can do better. My plan is to change out these backup lamp bulbs with these LEDs. Now, normally, I'm not a guy that goes and swaps everything for LED, but there's a method to my madness here. Two things. Number one, the wiring's pretty old. There's going to be a lot of current limitation just in the connectors and stuff. So these will be brighter, but the big deal is these are going to draw less current than those incandescent bulbs. Let me show you what I'm talking about. These are the lights I plan to mount underneath the bumper. They're just Traveler brand from the local farm and home store. I'm sure you can guess which one. If you measure these lights, and I have one here with which to measure, and once again, I have the positive lead from the jumper pack coming into my meter on the 10 amp amperage measuring scale. I've got the black lead coming out. It's going to this lead here. If I attach it, the light comes on, and you see we pull 0.97 amps. So both of those lights together are extremely bright, and they are less than half or more than half of the total amperage draw of those two incandescent bulbs there. My thought process is I'll rip those two incandescents out, replace them with these two LEDs, which will also draw very little. And my hope is that these two LEDs and those two all combined will be at or less than the, 2.7 amps that we saw that just the 2 incandescent bulbs were drawing. Basically, I'm giving myself some overhead by getting rid of those incandescents in order to, you know, be able to run more LEDs and not have to run more wires. Now, if we were in a situation where we were running big lights in the back and we were drawing 5 or 6 amps, then we would have to run a separate dedicated wire all the way to the back just to power those. But if you can limit your overhead, you can get away with it. Just be careful, don't burn your junk down. Measure and know what you're doing. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this housing completely out because I need to find a place to tap onto the reverse wire. Otherwise, we would pull the lens to replace this bulb. It's pretty clean housing, huh? I did that a long time ago when I had it apart. I brushed them up and cleaned them up. Now, I'm sure these are going to be polarity sensitive, which means I'm going to have to get them in the right way. Best way to check that is just to turn the reverse lights on and see what they look like. The fact that it's not on tells me I've got it upside down. The fact that it's not on tells me I don't know what's going on. Is the housing the ground? I'm afraid it may be. Nope. Huh. What's going on here? Do we not have enough voltage back here to light this lamp? That's certainly what it seems like, isn't it? I don't know what I was thinking when I was talking about polarity. With these bulbs, you can't screw them up. The center is always positive and the outside is always negative. So any way you put them, it's going to work. I'm thinking of the 1157 bulbs that have 2 prongs. Even those, you probably couldn't get them wrong. They have I digress. Anyway, I can't make these bulbs light up. And these bulbs light up extremely dim. And if we put our meter here on voltage and we grab the wire that is for the backup lights, we have 6.68 volts coming back here. That's not enough to light that LED. And it's barely enough to light the incandescents. So I think we need to go under the truck and figure out where the plug or the harness is, because it sounds like we've got some janky connections going on somewhere. And a truck with this much age on it doesn't surprise me. Just to rule out my power source, I went up front and I took a jumper and went from the battery positive all the way to the connector that comes back here through the switch to the lights. So I know I've got 13.3 or whatever going into it. Just because I have trust issues with my power supply, I don't know if it's good or not. I don't know if it's strong enough or not. Look at that, 13.7 volts. What that means is the connector that I'm using to send power back here obviously has a voltage loss of some sort. That being said, I should be able to pop this in here and have good light now. Let's see. Yeah, look at that. So what is that going to look like with the lens on it? Yeah, so that's what that'll look like. It's every bit as bright as the other ones, and maybe even brighter. But all that to say, we're chasing on the wrong end of the truck. Well, I went ahead and stuck the lenses back together since it is all cool and happy and such. I guess we'll find the wire we're going to tap to under the bumper there, because they should all come down that way anyway. So no point in leaving that apart. I'm thinking my best option here is to go ahead and get the under bumper LEDs mounted, and then we'll go, once they're in there and working and all that, we'll go up front and see about finding ourselves a power feed for those. Took like 2 minutes and mounted those up real quick. Just poked a hole with a drill. and mounted them. Haven't wired anything yet. That comes next. Looks like all the wiring that I'm looking for is right up there. And it looks ugly. I've got to find a place where there's a connector or something so that I can unplug. And, oh, there's one right there. Yep. That's going to be the connector. That's a pretty impressive amount of Scotch lock connectors or whatever those things are called. But either way, this is where I'm to get my backup wire. Look, there's black and red right there. Looks like the only ones that haven't been spliced. And that right there looks like a fuse pop waiting to happen. Look at that, just bare wire. I need to clean all that up while I'm down here. So I guess I'll just grab one of these and split it and run it down to the light. This is how I make my connections. This is the end result. When I extend wires like this, I use these. These are butt connectors, but they're heat shrink butt connectors, and they turn gooey when you shrink them. And then over each one of those, I put the gooey adhesive heat shrink on each one of those, and then I put heat shrink, the gooey stuff, over the top. You can see the glue oozing out of it there, over the top of all that. And I'll wrap this in cloth tape too, so that'll be a repair that'll last a long time. There. Now that's proper backup lights. With that wrapped up, let's move on to the next project. All right, next project. This right here. This mount has broke about a dozen times on this radiator, and the radiator's got a few little pinhole leaks and weeps in it. Pretty sure it's an original one, maybe even to the truck body. So we're gonna replace it. Well, this big old hunk of oh hell yeah. It's a 4-core aluminum, and I got it on eBay. No, got it on Amazon. Yeah, got it on Amazon. I want to say it was a couple $100, something like that. Two and something. Anyway, figured it'd be a better bet anyway than than what I've got. So, question is it going to fit? Now, you know how when you're out on Amazon, it shows select your vehicle, and we'll show you the matches and the fits. It says it'll fit, but won't really know till we get it in there. I've already got the coolant drained, so let's get the old radiator popped out of there, get the new radiator popped in there, refill it with coolant for like the 9th time in the past 2 weeks. I got lucky that didn't go in the water.
You got super lucky. It's like you just stood there and it fell out of your hand and you just watched it. You didn't even try to grab it.
I've learned just to watch where they go. That bottom hose has a spring in it, fellas, so it's a little bit tough. Well, while we're under the hood, I'm going to go ahead and get this power steering pump off here. It's been broke right here at the fill. I mean, I think ever since I've owned the truck, and I've I've played around and JB welded and done a bunch of other stuff to it, and it won't stay fixed, and it just leaks like crazy. So figure the best thing to do is just put a pump and housing on it. I went ahead and loosened up this this pressure line, so hopefully just pop that up here out of our way somewhere. Let it just bleed all over everything. Guess it really doesn't matter. It's been bleeding forever. Anyway, pumps on these things are really, really simple to get off. It's literally these 3 bolts here. You can, to loosen tension, you just basically pull these 3 off, and you use this bolt right here, or this nut right here, to move the pump back and forth. The more you tighten this, the more it moves over and takes care of this tension on this belt. This belt looks rough. It needs to get replaced. I'm going to loosen this one, but I'm not going to take it all the way out yet. If you loosen it, it makes this one right here so much easier. And the reason for that is because it holds the pump kind of in place. So we can loosen it. See how the pump just kind of slid away there? So that's our belt off. And we can just kind of support the pump from the bottom. Take this nut off. And the pump's basically free. I've got the return line on the back that I still have to pull off. That's just a flathead screw, you know, a hose clamp. All right, with the pump on the table, we need to go ahead and get this this pulley assembly off. It probably is easier to do this in the truck, but it's off the truck, and I really just don't want to take any chances around that new radiator because I have a tendency to poke holes in them. This thing's hemorrhaging oil. I've drained it 3 times. Doesn't seem to matter. Anyway, we'll use a power steering pump pulley puller. If you never use one of these, they're pretty straightforward. Basically, it's got this this thing here. It goes around the ridges, and you put the puller in the middle of it there. Slide this down over the top of it, and basically hold this nut still while you drive. We were almost there. Excellent. All right. That's what that looks like. We'll use another part of this puller to pop it back on there when the time comes. But meanwhile, we're after this bracket. These look to be 9/16. They are. And then, oh, look how much that thing has leaked. Good grief. And on the back, this is a 15/16 that holds it on the back of it. And it doesn't go all the way on, or you don't have to take it all the way off. It goes like that. The only thing else I think I need is this nut. So I'll break this nut off here, get it off, and then I'll clean up my bracket and get it painted, and we'll reassemble the new pump. Well, there's the cleaned and assembled pump all put back together. Let's get this back on the truck. Wrap that project up too. This return hose looks terrible. It's gotten all hard and gross. So I'm gonna cut it because I'm not so sure that's not leaking. I think that needs a new hose clamp because that is just not, that is not quality. It's actually a flat or Phillips or 8mm. It's not an 8. 7. It's not a 7. 6. It's not a 6. It's a 5/32. It's not a 5/32. It's a quarter. Truth be told, this line probably needs to be replaced. I'll put that on my list. When you're getting ready to tighten your belt on these, get those bolts close. Don't have them really, really loose, because it changes the pitch of the pump. Something like that. If you don't have one of these things right here, go get you one. I'll leave an Amazon link down below. Basically, you can turn the whole bottle upside down and nothing will come out until you turn this to open it. So it makes it way less messy to do things. Look how much of this stuff it takes. The system should be basically full because I didn't, I only took the pump off and not a whole lot came out. So we should be able to do this just with what we've got here. I don't have a whole lot in this jug is the problem though. Still not even showing on the stick yet. I guess we put all of this. And that's it, that's all I've got. Well, I ran out of that, but I found some of this that was in the toolbox. Nice thing about this contraption here is it has an adapter that screws on a quart bottle. I'm telling you, really handy. Oh no, it's full. Holy crap. Remember when I was saying it wasn't a mess? Yeah, well, here we are. It's gonna be gross here too. Ah, got it. Okay, messy and done. And with that, we're done. Guys, I appreciate you sticking around through all the different video series on this project, but that's going to wrap this one up. Appreciate you watching, guys, very much. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so down below. If you have anything to say it in the comments. And guys, I'll see you next time right here on Project Time Garage.